I think the most interesting thing about Keir Starmer's speech, and I'm going to get into detail about Starmer's speech itself, is the absence of one particular detail, the absence of the digital ID. If digital ID was a flagship, it would have sailed into the leader's speech. It didn't, and Starmer's set piece today majored on patriotism, apprenticeships, and an NHS online trust, not a syllable on the digital ID. And that tells us that the politics are already toxic and the whips know it. The news grid put the ID row into the weekend to absorb the flack. The Hall message swerves it, and that is classic long grass. Since the Friday trail that digital ID would be required to work by the end of the Parliament, the story has moved against number 10. Reuters framed it as a revived Blair-era fight over privacy, with only minority support for a digital version. The Times gave Peter Hyman's blunt warning, dead in the water within 6 months without a proper public case. Meanwhile, a fast-growing petition and a clear Lib Dem campaign line have already created a ready-made coalition of rejection, and petitions have surged well past the 100,000 debate threshold, with coverage citing 1.6 million to 2 million plus. That is a signal to jittery backbenchers that constituency inboxes will light up. Reform calls it a gimmick, Conservatives call it a gimmick, Lib Dems call it overreach, when left, right and centre all see upside in kicking your plan is in trouble. Opponents are not just shouting about apps, they are reaching for an old British line: citizens are not required to carry papers. Blair's identity scheme made it to statute, then died at the first possible moment in 2010. That folk memory is powerful, and it is being reactivated today. Even supporters in the middle of Whitehall delivery record on big digital systems is patchy. Verify collapsed. The NHS IT overhaul was an expensive bonfire. Legal right to work checks already exist and are weekly enforced. A shiny new credential doesn't arrest the problem of enforcement. The implementation case is therefore uphill. Yes, Estonia, Spain, Sweden, Afghanistan, India have working models, but they either built on long-standing ID cultures or outsourced to trusting banking rails, and even the poster child had to revoke and reissue hundreds of thousands of certificates in 2017. Britain is trying to start late, start central, start controversial. That is a high-risk triangle. If number 10 truly wanted digital ID to be the identity of this Parliament, it would have written it into the leader's Liverpool peroration. Instead, it appeared in a pre-brief and then vanished from the hall. That looks like message testing, not mission. It already suggests the Cabinet Office had not secured answers to basic scope questions that journalists were already asking. Peter Hyman is not a hostile messenger. When the former comms brain says the other side is motoring and you have no story to meet them, he's sketching a political obituary. 6 months to irrelevance. In British politics, that often means a review, then a pilot, then a pause, then a quiet burial in a committee room marked modernisation. What would have to change to keep this ID thing alive? Well, 3 things. A narrow, compelling purpose, right to work only with a statutory firewall against function creep. Independent guardianship, ICO, and an arm's length trust with hard red lines and audit rights. 3. A delivery path people can picture. Start with opt-in, physical fallback, and a published timetable for deletion and redress. None of these were on the conference lectern. On the balance of politics, culture and delivery risk, the digital ID scheme, as trailed, is unlikely to reach compulsion by 2029. Expect a pivot to a limited digital credential for government services and immigration status, with physical alternatives and a claim to having listened. The idea will not vanish, but the mandatory plan will. In short, digital ID as a universal requirement is already dying, maybe already dead, and the speech's silence was the first shovel of earth.